welcome to Living Creative with Pixie Princess. My name is Jaydell, and today I'm going to show you how to make a fluffy layer cake. So stay tuned. I am so glad you stayed tuned today to learn how to make this fluffy cake. So the cake recipe that I got this from is from a cookbook called the Cake Mix Doctor. And all of the cakes in that cookbook start with a cake mix and they're doctored up, hence the name, the Cake Mix Doctor. And these cakes taste very delicious, like they are made from scratch. So you can start with a cake mix. Cake mixes are pretty much guaranteed to work, so you don't have a lot of issues there with it rising and all that. But the other ingredients that you add to it make it very rich and delicious and tasty. And then we're going to top it with a homemade fluffy chocolate icing, which we don't need to make right now because our cake has to completely cool before we can frost it. So what you're going to need for this recipe is 2 cake pans that are either 8-inch or 9 inches. You're going to need your cake mix. This recipe calls for a white cake mix, but you could use a yellow cake mix if you prefer. Today I'm going to use white because that's what's in the recipe. You're going to need 3 large eggs. You're going to need a stick of butter. You need to melt your butter for the cake. This is set out to be softened later for the frosting, but I've already melted the butter in the microwave for the cake. And you will need 1 cup of whole milk and 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla. Now, I recommend you use real vanilla extract and not imitation flavor. This gives it such a good flavor that the imitation cannot copy. We pick up vanilla when we go to Mexico on cruises. We haven't been on one for a while, but we stocked up on this the last time we were there. So that's really the best vanilla in my opinion. So first things first, we need to prepare our cake pans. For that, you're going to need solid shortening and flour to keep it from sticky. I take a paper towel and I just get a little bit of the shortening out of the can, and then I just coat the pan, the bottom and the side, just kind of smoothly. I don't want globs of shortening on here. So just make sure both pans are well greased. I'm going to take some of it out of here because I may have gotten a little too much in there. Just need a tad more. I want to get this size because I don't want my cake to stick, because I want it to be a nice fluffy cake that looks as good as it tastes. Okay, so we've got these greased. Now, and I always keep a clean paper towel on hand to wipe my fingers on. You're going to need just a little bit of flour, not a lot. You don't want flour standing in here. So just put it in there, and then you're just going to kind of shake it around. Turn it this way until you get it all coated. It's hard to show you and do it. Okay, I need a little bit more in this one, but not a lot. Because you don't want standing flour in your cake pan. If you end up with standing flour, you want to dump it out. Lost my spoon in there. Just a little bit more. See how I'm just going around? I don't know if anybody's mothers ever did this. I remember my grandmother doing this every time. I used to help her bake cakes. She used to make them from scratch, and then when the cake mixes came out, she thought, oh, that's just so much easier. And so we made them from the cake mix. Okay, I think that's good. So I'm going to set these aside for now. And we need our mixing bowl. Now, I like to crack my eggs first because I want to make sure the eggs are fresh, and I want to make sure there are no eggshells when I crack the eggs, because believe it or not, I get eggshells in there when I crack them. So we're going to start. We need 3 large eggs. That one looks good. These 3's a charm. I think I'm good, but I just want to look around a little bit. One of my yolks busted, but that's okay. It's going to get beaten up anyway. I do not see any shells in these eggs, so applauding myself there, because that's very unusual for me. So when you are positive you don't have any shells in your eggs, I like to beat them just a little bit before I add anything else. Okay, and all we're doing is just beating the yolks and the whites together, so it's all there. Okay, now we're going to take your stick of melted butter and add it in there. I'm getting it all in there because this is what gives it that buttery flavor that we love. You don't want to melt the butter for the icing. You just want it soft, room temperature. Then I'm going to add my cup of whole milk. And I do recommend using whole milk because the fat in the milk does give it a good flavor. Next, I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And this stuff is so good. Okay, set that aside. And now we're going to add our cake mix. I've already opened it, so I wouldn't be fumbling on camera. So we're just going to dump it all in there. And you can use any brand. That doesn't matter. It's all going to work. All right, so all of our ingredients are in the pan. Those are all the ingredients you need. So you're going to start on low with your mixer to make sure it's all incorporated and there's no big obvious lumps. And you don't want the powder to go everywhere either. Okay, that's pretty good there. I'm going to take my spatula. You see these little edges right here? I'm going to make sure they get into the mixture. And then we're going to mix this for about 2 minutes until it's nice and thick and creamy on medium. Okay, so that's been around a minute or 2. So you just want the cake to be nice and thick and creamy looking. And set the beaters aside. Now we're going to get our prepared cake pans. And we want to evenly distribute this batter into the 2 pans. And I'm going to use my spatula to help me out here. You see how thick this is? This is going to make a very luscious, delicious cake. And use your spatula to get it out. I know you may have cake batter lovers, but you want to use as much of this cake batter as you can in the pans, because you want your cakes to rise to the occasion and be nice and thick and fluffy. So it may not be exactly even, but just eyeball it and do the best you can to distribute the batter evenly between the 2. And if you feel like you got a little more in one than the other, you can transfer it out a little bit. So that's why I keep a paper towel handy. All right, so just spread it out and see if you think it looks even. You want this to be as smooth as possible, so you'll have a nice even bottom on the cakes. Okay, let's get this one. Thinking I may have a little more in this pan than that one. Yeah, I think I do. So I'm going to just put a little bit over here. Hopefully that will even it out a little. Like I said, it's not an exact science. Just do the best you can. Get a little bit more over here. And just make sure it's nice and smooth as possible. Okay. Now remember, you preheated your oven to 350. Your rack should be in the center. You want to make sure your rack's in the center before you turn your oven on so you don't get burned. Now, I'm going to put these in my 350 oven. They said to bake it between 27 and 29 minutes. I'm going to check it at 27. If I can stick a butter knife in there and it comes out clean, then it's done. If it looks like it needs a little more time, I'll put it back in there for the full 29 to maybe 30 minutes at the most. So let me get these done. And if you get any on the side, get it off so it doesn't burn on your pan. Okay, so we'll be back when these are done and then we'll go from there. Welcome back, and let's make our frosting for our cake. So what you're going to need for this is a fluffy chocolate frosting. So you need your chocolate, and what we're going to need is 1 stick of room temperature butter. It needs to be very soft. When you touch it, it should be very where you can make indentions in it. You need 2/3 cups of cocoa powder. You're going to need 3 cups of confectioner's sugar. You may need a little bit more. As you mix it, you may see that you need it, but you need to sift it because you don't want any lumps or anything. You want it to be very fine, so you need to sift it before you use it. We need 1/3 cup of whole milk. We need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm using the pink Himalaya. I'm almost out, but I still have enough for this recipe. And to add a lot of flavor, 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. So what we're going to do first is get our sugar sifted. I have an old-fashioned sifter, but whatever you use to do it, you may find that it's very fine and you are comfortable not sifting it, but if you can, I highly recommend it so that it comes out very smooth. Okay, so we're going to need at least 3 cups. We might need a little bit more. So keep your sifter handy and your powdered sugar handy just in case. So I've got 1 cup. I've got a bowl that I'm going to sift it into. So I'm going to put my 1 cup in the sifter, and don't go too fast. I'm just going to gently sift it into the bowl. You don't want to go too fast. You can go this way, that way. It doesn't matter. And some people have a little when they tap. Get all of that sifted. We've got 2 more cups to sift. Be careful, this powder's going everywhere. Okay, you can put your fingers in there and mash it down if you need to. Okay, that's our first cup. Ooh. Glad that didn't happen. Okay, here's our second cup. And use fresh confectioner's sugar if you can. We want this to taste really fresh. You can kind of rock this if you need to. But I can see that it's getting very fine. Got some on the sides here. This does work better. This is kind of an old sifter. Okay, we got 1 more cup to sift. And this seems to work better. Making a mess here when I rock it. Versus just spinning it around. If you get some clumps, you can put your fingers in there, press it through. It just needs to be smooth. Okay, so we've got that done. I'm a mess, but I don't care. All right, so I'm going to set that aside, and we'll clean this up when we're done. All right, so we have our sifted powdered sugar. We don't need it yet, but I just wanted it ready. So what we got to do first is we got to get our mixer here. And I'm using a stand mixer. And we're going to put our softened butter in here. This recipe is also out of the Cake Mix Doctor cookbook. She has tons of homemade frostings to go on these cakes. And they are wonderful. Okay, so I'm just going to use my paddle. If you can see this on the camera, it's very soft. So I'm just going to really on low, and it helps when you plug it in. It really does. It gives it a lot more power. Okay. I get that plugged in here. Okay. Now it works. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of smooth that out a little bit. Get my spatula ready in case I need it. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it off and add the cocoa powder. Get that butter down here. I'm going to add it in, and then I want to start slow so the cocoa powder doesn't go everywhere like it's doing now. Nobody said you had to keep the kitchen clean while you're baking. Okay, we just want that well incorporated. We want it to be a soft dough-like texture. If you need to cut it off, scrape the sides, because we want all that mixed in. Okay. Now, if you feel like you need to turn it up a little bit, you can. I just want that to form a little dough. That chocolate smells amazing. I love chocolate. I'm going to scrape the sides again. Be patient. This isn't frosting that you just get a can. You can do that. That's perfectly fine. But this is just very yummy. and very delicious. And I do think you can tell the difference in frosting from a can and what you make from scratch. I'm going to give it one more mix. Okay, so I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients. I have 1/3 cup of whole milk. I need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm using Himalaya salt. And then we need 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, the same vanilla I used in the cake. One, 2. This smells so good. It really does. Okay. So I don't want to go hog wild with the sugar just yet. So what I'm going to do, where'd my cup go? Oh, I left it in the sugar. All right, so I'm going to turn my mixer on. Let's get this off the side and down in there. Mix these up right here. I still got some dry cocoa powder on the side that I want to make sure gets mixed in here. Oh, that smells so good. Okay, I'm just going to add it just a little at a time. And this is going to make a nice fluffy frosting. Frost your cake. You could use it for cupcakes. I wish you could smell this. Oh my goodness. I'm going to scrape the sides. Oh, it's getting silky looking. Okay, I'm going to add another cup. And I'm going to mix that. Once this powder all gets incorporated, I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit. I can taste the sugar in the air. Stop occasionally and scrape the sides. So you may need a little more milk if this gets too stiff. If it's too runny, you may need to add a little more sugar. We want a smooth, fluffy frosting. We'll mix that a little more before I add any more. I think by sifting this, it made a little more than 3 cups. Somehow. Okay, I'm going to add a little more. And I'm doing this because I don't want to spray my kitchen with confectioner's sugar. And I think it blends a little better when you do it this way. If you don't have the patience, just buy a can of frosting. But I promise you, you will not regret taking the time to make a homemade frosting, and you will be so proud of yourself. And yes, you can do it. You will not get this smell from a can of frosting. I love to smell nice things, you know. I like to smell food cooking, mixing, baking. I love scented candles, things like that. It's just simple things to me. So I'm going to add the rest of my sugar. I can. I don't know if you can see that overhead. Okay. So I've got the rest in here. I'm going to start off slow. And I may need to add a little bit more. If I don't think it's fluffy enough. Okay, I'm going to scrape the sides. So I want to make sure it gets mixed in. I don't want any white spots in my frosting. Oh, I can't wait. So this is enough frosting to frost a double layer or even a triple layer cake, or probably about at least 24 cupcakes or so. Okay, I'm going to start off on slow, and then we're going to increase the speed in just a minute. I may have to scrape it a little bit more. It's coming together really nicely. And then we'll test the consistency. Okay, I'm going to scrape the sides one more time. Make sure all of that's in there. I think we're good. Now I'm going to speed it up. Now I'm going to let it go for about a minute. See, I'm messy. So, you know, you can make these for special occasions. This is going to be a birthday cake. This is the perfect birthday cake. It doesn't have to be a special occasion. You can make it for any reason. Take it to a potluck, or just have a cake for your family every now and then. But I really wish you could smell this. It smells divine. And I know I'm going to have to wash up. So let's just keep this going for at least a minute, and then we'll test the consistency. You get a clean knife here. I hope I don't have to add anything else. I think we're nearing our minute. It looks nice and fluffy, but we'll see. Okay, I think our minute's about up. So let's give this a test. It looks about ready. It's good, but I think I need to mix it a little bit longer because I do taste the strong sugar on it. So I'm going to mix it for a little bit longer. I'm going to turn the speed up, but I don't think I need to add anything to it. So I'm just going to let it mix just a little bit longer to make sure all the flavors blend well. The cake's going to be really buttery tasting, and then this buttercream chocolate frosting is going to complement it very well. I think it's smooth enough if you wanted to pipe it on cupcakes, you could. But I'm going to be spreading this over our cooled cake layers. Okay, I think we about have it here. This looks perfect, okay? So I'm going to get a clean spatula and get all this together. We're going to check our cakes, see if they're cool enough to frost, and then we'll be back. Okay, so we're going to get these cakes ready. I wish you could smell it in here. The baking of the cakes, it smelled wonderful. Making this icing, it smells wonderful. So now we're ready to frost the cakes. They are completely cooled. They're cold to the touch. They're not warm. So a little advice here. Chances are you're not going to get them exactly even when you bake them. So you want the one that's flattest. This one had a little larger crown. I don't know if you can see that. So I want that one to be on the top. So I put this one on the cake box that I'm using, and just brush off any crumbs, any side things before you start. So you want a layer of frosting in between the layers of your cake. So all I'm doing is I'm going to plop on a little bit of the frosting, like so, and spread it. See, if you do this when the cake's still hot, it's going to mess up your cake. Your cake's going to come apart. So that's why you want it to be cool completely. So, I let it cool in the pan for a good 15 minutes. And then I put them on the rack and let them cool while I made the frosting. By the time the frosting was made and I cleaned up the mess around me, my cakes were totally ready to be frosted. Okay, so you don't want to get real fancy with the middle. It doesn't matter. It's just the center of the cake. But you want a nice even layer in the middle. And I wish I did have one of those cake spatula frosting spreaders, but I don't. So I'm just using this one right now. But it's going to be perfectly fine. Okay, so that's pretty good. This one can be kind of smooth. We're not worrying about making anything decorative on it. So we got our second layer here that we want to put on our cake. But I'm going to make sure all the little pieces are gone. Okay, so try to layer it on there as evenly as possible. So now we want to spread the top and the sides of our cake here. Now I know they do have these little turntables you can buy in the craft stores in the baking section, to make it easier. Your cake will spin around. I don't have one. It would be nice to have one, maybe one day, but I don't have one right now, so I have to turn it myself. So I just want to make sure I get a good layer on top. And then we're going to go around and get the sides. So just get a good helping and just go around the sides. You can take a paper towel and clean that up when you're done. If you can pick it up with your spatula to use, do that, but then we'll wipe it up in a minute. So I'm just going around, making sure the sides are covered, that you can't see the inside layer. Now you could make this in 3 layers if you wanted, but I just made 2. What's your favorite cake? Maybe I can make it for you and show you how to make it. I love to bake. I love birthdays. I think every birthday should have a cake, unless you prefer a pie. I'll make you a pie. But to me, this cake recipe right here is the perfect birthday cake. Okay, so we're just going around, making sure I have icing all around the sides, as much evenly distributed as possible. I think that looks good. I'm going to turn it around, and got a big hole right here I want to fill in. All right, now we've still got a good bit, so I'm going to put this on the top, like so. But this would be perfect on cupcakes. You could even, pipe it on your cupcakes. Make it a little fancy. My favorite icing is a cream cheese icing. I love cream cheese icing. And it goes on many different types of cakes. Red velvet is really good on. If you like carrot cake, it's really good on that. All right, so I'm spreading this big layer here. And this one you can get a little fancy. You don't have to get too fancy with it. We'll probably put some candles on it tomorrow. But I just make little swirlies on the top. Now if you're writing on it, you might want it to be a little smoother, but I'm not writing on it, so I just make little swirls and peaks. This is totally optional, just to make it pretty and to show someone you care and make them a cake yourself. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go around the sides here and clean up the sides. There you have it. A beautiful homemade cake to celebrate a birthday. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you share this video, it would mean the world to me. And if you want to see more recipes and DIYs, I hope you will subscribe. So I hope you have a very blessed evening. And until the next one, I'll see you later.